being like this aggressive carry that can jump in and try and make plays happen. And it didn't really look like, early on at least, that Hyde was able to play against it all that efficiently. He was able to steal away a lot of jungle camps. He actually had a pretty decent lead early on, but when it came to the actual fighting and actually skirmishing against their opponents, their positioning within those fights, they weren't able to kite it out as well as they would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, he does play it. He's played it in the past competitively with Tempo Storm. I think last season actually in 2.8, but they did not prioritize picking him and they did not choose picking him. Hammers bans Lyra after the Tempo Storm Vox ban, and that's obviously targeted at starting all over.
Well, Catherine is going to be locked on in here for Tempo Storm as their first pickup here. Catherine, something we've seen a fair bit across the course of today. It's not been the highest priority captain for most teams, but Tempo definitely wanted to lean on that.
Yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that it has been prioritized so heavily. The reason why Catherine was this must-pick ban hero in Update 2.8 was the fact that her heroic perk gave 2 stacks of armor and shield per stack of the perk. It is back down to only giving 1 in Update 2.9, so I'm a little bit curious as to why so many teams are still putting a heavy focus on her. She's been banned a whole lot. Obviously, yes, you still have the on-demand stun of Merciless Pursuit. You still have the AoE silence of the Blast Tremor, but just without having that perk, being able to have 2 stacks per, or 2 defense per stack, I just feel like her effectiveness has dropped off a fair bit.
I do disagree. I don't think that the fact or the reason that made her so strong was her tankiness with the heroic perk getting 2 stacks per stun. I think it was the fact that, and as it still is, when you pick up an Echo and a low wave, her silence and her late game and team fighting becomes so strong. The Rhyme goes through, first time in a long time in these games, especially today, going to be on status. That's an extremely strong hero that can apply a lot of pressure, invade in the jungle, has an extremely strong clear speed on top of very good last hitting potential to try and steal camps away from your team or from your opponent.
Not only that, but then it's going to be the Kestrel picked up by starting all over. So 2 very strong heroes for both of these carries. It means they are going to be having their captain as the last pick, so you're not going to have that hard counter pick, but I don't think you care about that. When you get 2 carries that are as strong as the Rhyme and the Kestrel, Baptiste was obviously banned to make sure that the Baptiste Catherine doesn't go over to the side of Tempo Storm, but now they have to try and figure out some way to deal with this Rhyme and the Kestrel, and it is not an easy task.
I mean, their options are not too many here. They can either go for a ranged hero such as Kestrel or Samuel to deal with the Rhyme, or they can go for a Cruel to play that traditional matchup of 2 very strong early game heroes that can duel one another depending on who plays it better and depending on the skill matchup. So they're actually ran out of time there. This must be a bug with the draft client perhaps, so I'm sure this is going to get restarted and we're going to get to see what they ended up picking. Again, the Kestrel with the Rhyme, like you mentioned, Tasty Bacon, a very strong composition already being built up for Hammers just because of the fact that both of their carries are on heroes that can do a lot with their kits and can be very strong, and they're both very comfortable on them as well.
Yeah, one of the options I would like to see for Tempo Storm would actually be a Skye coming out. I think Skye has a lot of potential against the Rhyme, being able to slow him down and keep him from being able to charge in on you the way Rhyme wants to. They are going to block in this Idris. That's a pick that can be very risky against a Kestrel in the lane, because Kestrel can just harass him all day with Glimmer Shots, and if you aren't sustaining with a Book of Eulogies and sometimes even then some, it's not going to be a pretty rough laning phase. It is going to be the Krull as the final pick, however, for Tempo Storm. So, as you mentioned, Zoro going for that more traditional type of draft against a Rhyme.
Yeah, and then Arden going to round out the composition for the side of Hammers. So, honestly, 2 fairly meta, fairly decent compositions for both of these teams. I don't feel like either one has a too significant advantage. What are your thoughts, Zoro?
I mean, their advantages are just different in terms of different times in the game. Hammer's composition can be a lot stronger early game and mid game. They can apply more pressure, try to snowball, get a turret, get advantages in the jungle by invading, while Tempo Storm's composition needs to scale, and Cruel can help them scale, but he's the only person that can fight back. CP Idris and Catherine both need time to be able to do a lot later on in team fights, so it's a matter of teams using their power spikes correctly in this game.
All right, we'll see who's going to be able to control their power spikes a little bit better on this one. I'm curious, Who do you guys, who are you leaning towards in this one? Obviously, Hammers 1-0 up in this series. Do we believe in Tempo Storm? Can they come back into this one?
Unfortunately, I just don't think that they have what it takes with this composition that Hammers have. Rhyme and Kestrel are so strong, especially with starting all over having the Kestrel. I think it's going to be too much for them to overcome.
I agree.
All right, we'll see if that's going to be the case as we head on into this game. Let us know what you think as well on Twitter using that hashtag Vainglory8. Let us know whether you believe in the comeback for Tempo Storm or if Hammers are going to get this one with a clean 2-0. It's time to jump on into the game, and it's time to pass it once again to Dowsy and the Source on the caster desk.
Thank you very much, Munchables. Starting all over, and Status even have secured themselves such a strong composition here. Kestrel, Rhyme, and an Arden to round it off. Hammers going to be feeling very happy with their drafting phase here on 2.9.1. We'll have to see how Tempo Storm can do with theirs. This Idris, Cruel, and Catherine to combat what Hammers are currently playing with.
Yeah, it's going to be good opportunity for just early pressure out from starting. If he can set up the lanes, you're going to have the Kroll looking to find some of those ganks. There's a decent balance between what the two teams can do, and I like the fact that starting over here on this middle. Take that.
That was almost an auto attack steal from Playboy Afro. That would have been unreal. It's a nice little move that actually by starting. He gets him to level 2. Just about, I think, with the experience from those front camps, and should be pretty good at making sure that you don't have to fight Cruel at level 1 either. So definitely liking to see that we're seeing different rotations coming out of the teams based on who they're playing against.
Yeah, so good early opening for them. Gatsby has his minion candy, so the moment he starts to feel significant pressure, he'll be able to kind of deal with that. And now we see Hammers with a little bit more of that kind of solid sieging composition. It's a lot more balanced than it was in the last game. Gatsby will be kind of at a little bit of a disadvantage until that crystal power kind of comes through. So, I don't see starting being under that much pressure towards the early portion of the game. I'm not sure, where Hyde is going to find that potential early pickoff, and I don't really think he wants to go fight the Rhyme. Status should be fine fighting him out in the jungle. So for now, I think we see both teams kind of leaving each other alone. At least for the next minute or so, while they kind of look to pick up an item or two, go for that first back.
Be very interesting to see what Gatsby decides to do as we see Hyde march Status back to his turrets here. Hyde can't actually kill the Rhyme. A little bit intrigued at what Tempo Storm's endgame is here. In fact, it looks like Hyde might just be in trouble here. Status should be able to deal with this Cruel with the help of an Arden. It should just be First Blood going over to Status in the longest duel we've seen ever. That will be the First Blood indeed going to the Rhyme.
Yeah, so I said he didn't really want to fight him. He disagreed, and Status turned around and said, I'm just going to draw you under 2 turrets and pretty much cut you off from your team. There wasn't a real opportunity for Playboy Afro and Gatsby to show up and back up Hyde. So now the middle treant will be going over to Status. He'll be able to start doing some of what Ryan can do and coming in pressure. Well, Hyde is back here. He's got Playboy Afro to back him up.
Certainly does. Cruel's very good actually into Rhyme, surprisingly. Just able to duel him in a 1v1 fairly well, just due to the fact that the weakness stacks cuts down all the damage that a Rhyme can output onto a Cruel. It was the chase that was unnecessary from Hyde. I'm sure he knows that it was a bit of an error. A little bit too bloodthirsty for that kill. Now Gatsby pushed under his turret, and there's a minion candy as well, making his life a misery. He struggles to clear the wave and starting over, just doing so much damage to it. Hyde has come to the lane. Chicken may just lose his life here, starting all over, trying to lay down the damage. Just be careful he doesn't get re-engaged upon, can't quite find the kill into his former teammate. Status is here as well. Hyde going in for second, starting all over. Lays down the charm, kills Hyde and says, see ya later, pal. Starling's been freed and he's ready to show up on the fold.
Yeah, looked like that was a good initial play. Gatsby had gotten a bunch of damage on the starting off of 1 chakram, but step under a turret towards the early portion of the game when all you've really got is a couple of defenses, a little bit of damage. Bull isn't going to survive that long. That's the first turret going over to the side of the Hollywood Hammers, and they will be able to now send starting back into the new regen up. But he seems pretty confident just whipping shots over at Gatsby. He actually doesn't even want to back. He's like, nah, I can stay along.
I just love the fact that during all of that, starting all over, the mechanical god that he is on Kestrel had time to open up his emotes menu and pop a charm just to taunt Hyde before his inevitable death. That's pretty BM. That's what we love about starting all over, is moments like this. Currently though, it is a great start for Hammers. We see Status has opted in for the Shadowglass first item. A bit of a debate about what you might build first on a Rhyme, with Dragon's Eye now here. If the fights last long enough, then Dragon's Eye certainly does better than Shadowglass, but a lot of pros love the initial burst damage that the Winter Spire does, and now with Winter Spire being nerfed as well, the Shadowglass probably going to see more favor on Rhyme. I'm still disappointed that we haven't quite had a Dragon's Eye be accepted into the pro community yet as a first item Idris purchase. We do see Gatsby once more sticking to the Shadowglass. And
maybe
actually, in this matchup, it's even worse than the previous one with Gangstars up against Nova because of Kestrel's hit damage. It's unreal. CD Idris actually struggles to deal with it.
Second item, we can only hope. But the moment it's Hollywood Hammers looking to get a little bit of engagement, Status goes forward. Off the sprint. Doesn't manage to connect.
There's going to be Hyde just chilling in a bush right now. For the flank, Status going to walk into it. Here he comes. He's trying to get onto starting all over. Stuns up the Rhyme. That's a great chakra play. But starting all over still alive. The kill goes over to the Rhyme. Status with 2 of his own. Unreal stuff. Tempo Storm have just been dropped where they stand.
An amazing stun. All of that kind of gets set up by the active camo stun from starting all over, and starting all over is running around at basically no mana, basically no health, is just confident that his team is going to be there to back him up whenever he gets into trouble, and they show up at the perfect timing. You get a Valkyrie on top of 2, and it takes Hyde out of the picture pretty much instantly. And if this continues, we're going to see starting all over getting to that Sorrow Blade massive crit build, very, very quickly. If that comes through by, like the 15-minute mark and he's starting to crit through targets, Hyde won't have picked up enough damage to be able to actually pressure him, or he'll either not pick up enough, defenses to survive him.
Currently, Hammers are just destroying Tempo Storm. It is a 4,000 gold lead right now. Nothing like the previous game where it was definitely a lead for Hammers, but it just didn't feel anywhere near as decisive as this. I suspect 2.9 that Rhyme Kestrel becomes the Covenant composition, and you compare it with whatever captain you want. Arden probably the best, but man, it's just insane. Charen Walker, why not?
Charen Walker.
This gold miner, a little bit risky. Hammers are trying to draw it back towards them. Here comes from Hell's Heart. Connects onto no one. It's a smite wall. A smite wall that the Kestrel wins. Oh dear, Hyde. What are you doing? That's going to be the gauntlet being placed on down. Starting all over to try and take down Hyde by himself. Success. Status now looking for Gatsby, who can't really kite the Rhyme. Status pops his boots, runs onto Gatsby and kills him. That just leaves Playboy Afro currently walking around the Halcyon Fold, trying to outrun starting all over. Has a one-shot available. I don't think it does enough damage on the weapon power format, but Playboy Afro will be able to escape. Hammers once more just showing that they are the premier of the two teams in this matchup.
Solid victorious team fight. Either a mistimed smite, either just wasn't there, and then a Valkyrie dropped from the sky and pretty much obliterates the double melee composition from the side of Tempo. They had pretty much everybody stacked on top. They were trying to get that, and they almost baited themselves in because they could have let that gold miner reset. They could have left that alone and looked for just kind of a clean team fight. But when you fight around something like a gold miner, you always have to be worried that you might aggro it, take a little bit of damage, be slowed. You're looking for the steal when somebody else is actually doing damage to you, or vice versa. You're out putting damage on the tank and the steal comes. So, just pretty much everything fell apart for Tempo, because starting all over is dishing out massive damage, and Hyde isn't really there for the pressure. They used the From Hell's Heart very early. I think he was looking to possibly bait out the Gauntlet, but it didn't come through.
Right now, Gaspy's struggling heavily in this matchup. Behind on gold on a Crystal Power Idris. It's not a place you want to be. Has just finished his alternating current. Now likely going towards the Broken Myth as his third item. Does get a bit of gold from Hyde, but he has to roam back into the lane. But starting over is threatening on this Kestrel. He's almost completed his third tier 3 item, which will be another monocle for himself here. I much prefer this build, by the way, for Kestrel. I know Truth has kind of popularized a breakpoint build. We'll talk about it in a second as another engage comes out. Everyone's silenced. It is currently Chicken taking the brunt of the damage. He's happy to do so on this item. Now look at the damage coming out. Gauntlet gets placed on down. Valkyrie onto Playboy Afro's head. Gaspy struggling to get onto starting. Starting is able to walk away. Finds one. That's two. That's three for the Ryan. Easy peasy lemon squeezy says status. And it's a choke point turret for Hammers.
Because the siege from Hammers wasn't good enough. They needed an ace to just continue to pressure this forward. They could probably take at least one crystal turret here. I don't think they go for both. I don't think they even go for... And no, they're thinking about it.
It's Hammers. Hammers love ending games early.
They actually have a
There's one thing they love more than anything else. It's annihilating their opponent, starting all over. He has to play like a god, but they've taken down Hyde. This could just be the end of it all. At 11 minutes into the game, there's an ace buff minion wave still pushing on in. There's turrets to be taken, starting all over, critting it away. Turret goes down. 11 minutes at the game. Hammers are going to put Tempo Storm out of their misery and delete them from day one in spectacular fashion.
Starting all over is back. Ladies and gentlemen, beware. That's all I have to say about that. Double Chill Wind was a great setup over those fights. Status got 2 massive Chill Winds onto 3 people, getting great roots, and starting all over just ran circles around the side of Tempo.
Absolutely insane. From Hammers here on the Halcyon Fold. Once more showing us